As we go into game one on Atal'Dazar.
And here we are in beautiful Sydney, Australia, getting ready for the first match of the LAN here. Immediately we see Method EU going out the left side. Black Mamba follows suit as well. Typically what we'll see here, of course, is that large pull coming in, mass pull coming in from Method EU. That Bloodlust will usually be popped, but they could be a bit stingy and save it for the bosses in this Tyrannical environment.
We see both of the Resident Druids, of course, jumping onto his ledge, as you can see on the left. Now we see Neves on Black Mamba's side actually uses that Tree of Life, which we haven't seen Zalia pop yet, so maybe not running this Tree of Life at all. Now we see also not the Confessors being pulled at all on Black Mamba's side, at least not the patrolling Confessor. We saw the Resident drop very, very low, but he did recover and did manage to dispel himself, while Method EU side is already done with their pull here.
But Black Mamba following suit, they just finished up as well. Method EU actually going up the side towards the Colossus pull right now. It doesn't look like they actually want to engage the pull, as now runs in, grabs the pack to the side, and the rest of the group safely runs up. Double sap, of course, that true CC coming in from the two rogues, as Zalian now follows suit, moving in safely into Priestess Alunzi's room, getting ready for what will likely be a mass pull here. Typical snapping coming in from Black Mamba on the right side of the screen here with the swords, making sure that they don't jump around. Huge pull here for Method EU as Bloodlust goes off. The entire pack is pulled in front of the boss, including Priestess Alunza.
This is such an important pull for Method EU here, as they have all the trash. They're also going to get Reaping on top of this boss here, as they pull the boss as well. Now, the problem with this pull is that you have the Priestesses from the trash who drop these pulls on the ground, but the pulls don't actually work for the boss's mechanic, the transfusion. So you need to make sure that you actually use the boss's pulls and not the Priestesses' pulls. But Method EU doing a really good job as the transfusion goes out. Everyone took the right pulls. They also managed to see the Spirit of Gold, and they did get the Reaping as well.
Yeah, so the Reaping is being cleaved here for Method EU, 34% on the board for Trash. Black Mamba, 23%, of course, going a more traditional route down to Razan and cleaving that first round of Reaping along with that Tyrannical boss. Both teams doing an excellent job with the mechanics, as is expected at this high-caliber play tournament right now, making sure not to get caught by Razan or, of course, Shadow Melding or vanishing that chase off should the players get targeted. Nice to hear from observers as Method EU cleans up the rest of this first Reaping pack. Zayla just on the side, getting ready to dip into that pool as needed, and we can see Priestess Alunza getting that 25% chunking damage worth as the players make sure to reflect her self-heal with the blood pools here.
Yeah, this is a very interesting route coming out of Method EU. We haven't seen this at all from any of the teams before in the Cups. We've seen something similar from 40k, but they actually chose to kill the Colossi. So Method EU is choosing to skip the trash, but still go the same route where you go to Priestess first. Now, we've talked to Method EU, and they just kind of explained to us that they're doing this route because this is a lot less backtracking, and this is just better Reaping timings for them. So this is why they chose this route here. They also got the Bloodlust off immediately for this big pull. We've seen so many teams just save the Bloodlust for a long time for this exact pull, and Method EU just doesn't have to save it for that long because they just go there straight away.
So expectation, of course, for Method EU here will be that they'll likely proc their second Reaping and then jump down to Razan. So they have to make sure to get a likable patrol here, as we see the tricks of the trade coming out of the rogues here, redirecting all their threat to Now, who's already pre-positioned with his snap on the side. Mir's unfortunately eating the brunt of the damage from some of the swords coming in right now, as the second Reaping pack does now spawn for Method EU. Black Mamba, 35% still on Razan, so they're still chewing through that high health Tyrannical boss. Method EU now dealing with a lot of the raging mobs here at Snap. Since the swords don't jump, there is a lot of danger on pressure on that tank with the damage.
Yeah, so they're jumping down now as they're down with the trash to engage Razan. No one fell off. It was all on purpose, of course. Now, one thing, of course, you have to note here is the Grievous. Since they didn't actually get out of combat, we saw the cheat death proc from Gingy here as well, because the falling damage plus the Grievous taking on the people, and you probably also get a swing from the boss here as well. But they are about to recover here as Alia is healing away the Grievous ticks. Now, with Razan, there's a lot of tank damage, so you definitely got to watch out for that as well.
Yeah, of course, there's that debuff that goes out that gives you a bleed and increased physical damage taken, so a bit dangerous, especially if you spawn a lot of these reanimated raptors plus the Sky Screamers at the top that we did see Zayla run up and pull. It is marked with an X for Method EU, making sure that the terrifying Screech is interrupting. Well done so there by the team. Otherwise, the entire group will be AoE feared. That comes up every 15 seconds, so one melee can very easily handle that. Razan here, 3%, finally about to spawn out for Black Mamba, but, you know, Nagar, we talk about this dungeon a lot. It's a very open dungeon. It's always kind of hard to gauge how the two teams are versus each other, but Black Mamba has only now killed the first boss. Razan is at 66% for Method EU, and they've already killed Priestess Alunza along with 53% of the trash. I gotta say, Method EU is probably a fair bit ahead right now.
Yeah, I do want to say that Razan definitely is a boss that has a lot more HP and takes a lot longer than Priestess Alunza because she just kind of, she damages herself with the transfusion cast. So Priestess Alunza definitely takes a lot less time than Rezan, but Method U does not have the Bloodlust available to them here on Rezan, while Black Mamba did use theirs. And it seems like Method U just has so much single target damage, as Rezan seems to be dying a lot faster for them than it did for Black Mamba.
Yeah, but it's still certainly taking a while. They're doing really well here to make sure that Rezan is kept in place for as long as possible, at least. Pursuit does finally go out on Now, the furthest target from the boss, who just runs away, and I believe did not have the Shadow Melt, so he's just kiting the boss as little as possible so that they can return to the corner. I think they might actually do a full side swap here in order to have access to the 5 swords just above them for when the boss does finally die. In fact, they're actually going for it right away, as you see Zayla get in cheetah form, run up there and grab all of the swords down on top of the pack. You know, that splash damage, especially with Enraging, could actually be a bit dangerous on the group, depending what else is happening for Rezan.
Yeah, Grievous is definitely a very dangerous affix with the swords coming up, because not only is it the damage that you have to deal away from the swords jumping, but you also just has Grievous on everybody. Now, Restitude can heal the Grievous. Restitude, of course, a very good healer as everyone's playing it, but still, the sword damage plus boss damage on the tank plus the Grievous, it is a difficult job for the healer here, but Azalea doing a good job as Rezan is already on 9%, so they're about to down Rezan, and they're also about to proc their 60% Reaping Wave here.
Yeah, so that should be the 60% soon. Black Mamba, of course, not to be forgotten, is already working on Volcall, and it looks like they actually had a bit of trouble with their first phase here. You do have to kill all of those reanimation totems at the same time, so I didn't actually take a sneak peek whether they just left one at the end and are cleaving it down, or one did heal, but you can see there the two are quite low. Now they're just working down on it. Their second round of Reaping has joined them now. Nagura, you know I talked about this in the past. Not really the most efficient to proc that Reaping on top of Volcall phase 1. You don't really get a lot of effective cleave, as the boss just self-heals nonstop until you get those totems down. Nonetheless, they have decided otherwise, have down the second pack of Reaping, and are finally entering their second phase on Volcall, as Method U has moved upstairs above Rezan's pit right now, and has done a massive snap here, not only with the swords and Skyscreamers on the side, but also the dinosaurs in the middle of the room.
Yeah, this was a pretty significant pull by Method U, as they saw their rogues had tricks of the trade on Now. They redirected all the aggro, so they went over, pulled the middle, they all snapped to the tank's location on this ledge here, and they're just dealing with all the middle area trash, which gives so much percentage, especially worth it on a non-fortified dungeon as this one here is.
Yeah, and you know, important to note actually, what's really key about this is part of the reason you don't pull that center pack is it does give a lot of percent, but the dinosaurs constantly charge in every direction. You can see this frenzied charge being cast here non-stop by one of those Triceratops essentially, and they have nowhere to go because they're snapped in this location, so everybody could just sit there effectively cleaving them all the way down, finally getting most of it down as they hit 69% on trash. Black Mamba dealing with Volcall, still 30% on the board for them. Of course, we do know most teams don't use their Bloodlust on this, as the boss does have that aura that damages the players, but also the boss themselves. Getting a bit out of hand with healing here, though, as the Grievous stacks are starting to ramp up on the group right now, and just a lot of trouble coming in for the rest of Dread right now. Enemies is just not able to heal everyone down, and the rogues are just ticking down lower and lower. 4 stacks left and right as we have a cheat death proc after one of the rogues. Hank's about to proc as well, and he's just not able to hold on the damage, but Volcall is about to fall, and immediately those fish feasts are going to go down, but they have procced their 4th Reaping here for Method EU now.
That was so close for Black Mamba. I've just seen the Grievous stack just stack up on each member, and it's not, if you're far behind on the Grievous and you have 4 stacks on everybody on top of having AoE damage from the boss, it's just so hard as the rest of it to come back if you don't have something like Tranquility ready. But they did manage to kill the boss and recover, and now they're on to the next pack. Now, at this point, Method U is just so far ahead. They are 86% trash versus 40%, and they are 2-2 bosses. Now, the bosses that are left alive for both of them are different, as Priestess Alunza are still alive for Black Mamba, and for Method U it's Volcall. So it's a little bit different there, but the trash is like double the amount of trash for Method U at this point.
Yeah, that's really the thing to watch out for here. I mean, Black Mamba has to do a massive pull to try and catch up on the amount of trash that they're behind for Method U. And not just the trash and but on top of it, 2 rounds of Reaping. I mean, they certainly have their work cut out for them, as Method U is just going to glide on up to Volcall and get started here in a moment. We can see Wong jump over on the side, getting ready to get all of the swords and the Sky Screamers snap over to him, as they do well to interrupt, of course, that terrifying screech. In go Method EU into Volcall's room, getting ready to down the second last boss of the dungeon.
Yeah, Method U on Volcall here, they are 98%, so they only need 1 more mob, most likely, to get that Reaping, which can be done with a Sky Screamer at the very end, which we've usually seen in the past. Now, if you look at the final time, it's not even 10 minutes into the dungeon, and Method U only has 2 bosses left to kill for them, basically. So Method U definitely a very, very fast run in their Atal here, as they're working on phase 1 of this Volcal fight, well, Black Mamba still has to do a lot of trash. We see also some snapping from Black Mamba on the other side.
Yeah, so snapping right before that kind of a Fire Bridge Gauntlet, or Fire Stair Gauntlet, if you will, leading up to Priestess. The first phase about to go down here for Method EU, as they, of course, leave that last 2% worth of trash. They don't want to deal with the last wave of Reaping, but a couple of 4 stacks here in the DPS, as Azalea is having just a bit of trouble catching up, and finally the aura from phase 2 of Volcal is starting to apply to the group, so Azalea is starting to change gears here and play a bit more defensive, making sure everybody's healed above that 90% threshold, getting rid of those Grievous stacks that we saw be almost disastrous for Black Mamba earlier.
Yeah, definitely you do not want to fall behind with the healing here in this fight, or in any fight if it's the Grievous Affix, because as soon as you have 4 stacks on everybody, it's just so hard to get back from that. But we see Zalia just making sure Hots are on everybody. You see the fluorescence, the green healing zone dropped on the floor, everyone is standing in it, making sure to get the passive healing from that. And then we see Zalia just going in and out of cat form to make sure he maximizes his DPS as well, as he's up to 8k DPS on his Resto Druid.
Yeah, we do know Zalia is a huge fan and a very offensive player. He likes to just take advantage of that kitty DPS as much as he can in these situations and keeping the group at just bare minimal amount of healing. And you know, when we talked with Method EU, it wasn't even, he trusts his team so much and they plan around their defensive CDs as well so that he can damage. So the group's play with their defensives is planned around that, allowing him to get that extra damage. And Black Mamba about to proc their 4th round of Reaping here right in front of Princess Alunza, dealing with that massive pull that Method EU earlier had combined with them. Volcal does fall here for Method EU as they start to rush downstairs. Shroud comes up immediately and they get ready to go to Yasma, the final boss of the dungeon.
Yeah, the double Shroud just coming out here from Method EU. 1 Shroud to skip to Volcal and the other Shroud to go back away from Volcal to skip this trash twice. So definitely making use of the double rope setup here as they're on their way to the last boss. Now they're most likely going to pull one of the Sky Screamers, making sure that it runs up to the boss fight, and then it's just going to get CC'd in a corner by either Zalia with Hibernate or by the Monk. So they're probably just going to kill it at the very end of the boss fight, so they don't have to deal with the 100% Reaping wave, of course.
And we finally have our first death of the tournament as a Shin goes down for Black Mamba. The battle res does immediately come up as Priestess Alunza is pulled for Black Mamba, but Method EU well ahead now as they pull Yasma, the final boss of the dungeon. Now, on Tyrannical, this boss can be pretty scary, and you can start to run out of space quite quickly with the spiders should you choose to soak them. Most teams don't do that, however. They kite them around in a circle and make sure that they are close to the boss behind and nobody is in danger. So with this all melee comp, they drop the images closely behind the boss, but there could be a bit of bad luck sometimes, Nagura, and they could have the spiders kind of fixate and spawn on them as they're trying to go and drop the group off.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of a difficult fight on Tyrannical, especially because it just lasts so long. It has so much HP, it takes forever. And this is why the route of Method EU is also very impressive, because they just have their Bloodlust back up exactly for this fight. So they had it for the difficult pull with Priestess Alunza at the start, and they have it again for this Yasma fight here at the very end. So definitely a very good route coming out from Method EU here as they're on the last boss. And as you mentioned, there's some difficult moments here, especially with the Soul Rend, as you can see come out right now. Now they dropped their images very close to the boss to min-max their DPS, because the closer you drop them, you can still damage the boss while cleaving them down passively. So very well done here by Method EU.
A resident spider boss here should have kept their job as a web designer as now. Does chunk just a bit low there from the Rend, but does manage to stabilize. Azalea just pumps a bit of healing over time into him, getting above that 90% threshold right now. Yasma falling rapidly here, 44% on the board as Priestess Alunza only now about to fall for Black Mamba, who then needs to double over and head all the way back to Yasma. So anything short of a full wipe here, Method EU should have this first game in the bag.
Yeah, so interesting to see that they already chose to engage the Sky Screamer now when Yasma is still on 40%. I assume it's to maximize their cleave damage and just get more damage on the boss, but it is kind of difficult to deal with the Sky Screamer on top of all the boss's mechanics, because the Sky Screamer needs to be interrupted, the boss needs to be interrupted, and if you have a Soul Rend on top of it and you're out of range for your interrupt, then it might be a problem, but it really shouldn't be for these kind of things, especially for Method EU, as they're doing a really good job throughout this dungeon. 0 deaths, very clean run so far. The Sky Screamer going down, so the Reaping wave is going to come.
Yeah, the Reaping wave is going to come right now, and procced as well by Black Mamba that decided to just shadow meld it off and run up to Yasma. Yasma, though, about to hit the single digits of % health left as they spawn one last Rend in the corner. A few Risen Souls have joined the pack, but shouldn't really be trouble for the team, as they will just cleave them down passively, and really they don't need to kill them, because as soon as this boss dies in 5% from now, Method EU will claim the first game in the series against Black Mamba, leading the series 1-0. Nothing but an expected dominant performance coming out of Method EU to start this up.
That's Method EU for you, coming out very strong here in Atal'Dazar, just over 14 minutes.